So picture this. It's 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night. Your family, they're already fast asleep. But you're still wide awake. What are you doing? Catching up on dozens of missed Slack messages, hundreds of unanswered emails, all of which should have been handled by the person you hired months ago. On top of that, your best team member has just given their 2 weeks notice. Why? Because they're burnt out from covering from someone else's workload. Oh, and the person that you were so confident about, the one who felt like a perfect fit, well, they're still asking basic questions that were already covered in week 1's training. This wasn't supposed to happen to you. Now, if you're new to this channel, my name is Jared Black. I'm a professional recruiter, founder, and business owner. And over the last 10 years, I've successfully placed more than 10,000 employees across hundreds of different businesses in dozens of different verticals. And on this channel, I share actionable recruiting strategies to help business leaders like you attract and hire top talent without the guesswork, without the cost of mistakes, or the endless waiting. If you're nodding along, or that scenario sounded familiar, then this video is for you. Because today I'm breaking down the real costs of making a bad hiring decision. And I'm not just talking about the salary that you pay them. I'm talking about the hidden costs that most businesses never consider. The costs that can easily reach $250,000 or more from a single bad hire. So here's what you're gonna learn. 1, the financial carnage that follows hiring the wrong person. And I'm talking hard costs, soft costs, and everything in between. 2, my 5-step system that's led to over 10,000 successful hires throughout my career. And 3, by the end of this video, you'll know exactly where your hiring process is breaking down and what to do about it. So be sure to stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to be giving you a free tool that shows you precisely what's costing you money in your current hiring process. Ready to get started? Let's dive in. So things look completely different for you a few months ago. You were interviewing a candidate who just felt right. You know that feeling. The conversation, it flowed naturally. They had energy, they had confidence, they had presence. They reminded you of another successful hire that you've made in the past. Everything in your experience told you that the person would work out. And honestly, you were tired of the endless process. You were tired of the interviews that went nowhere. So when someone finally felt like the right fit, you move forward with confidence and you shorten the evaluation. But here's where you are now. Your team is stuck picking up the slack. Projects, they're being shuffled around. And people who are already stretched thin are now covering for someone who just can't keep up. Training sessions that should have taken 2 weeks have stretched into months. You can feel the team morale dropping. Your top performers are frustrated, one of whom has just handed in their resignation. Now, that story I just told you, it's not unique. It's happening right now in thousands of companies across the country. And the financial damage is far worse than most businesses realize. And here's the tough part. Nobody ever teaches business leaders how to actually recruit. What I mean is, you learned your craft, whether it's sales, operations, product, finance, you learned it through education, mentorship, and experience. But recruiting, you're just expected to figure it out somehow. So you rely on your intuition. You learn through really expensive trial and error and just hope that the next hire works out better than the last one. But I'm here to tell you that hope is not a system. And every bad hire doesn't just cost money. It costs momentum, morale, and sometimes it'll cost you your best people. And the companies that are scaling successfully aren't the ones with the best gut instincts. They're the ones with proven hiring systems that work consistently, regardless of how busy or how desperate they are. Now, you may be thinking, okay, Jared, this is painful, but how much is this really costing me? Let's start with the hard cost. So when you make a bad hire, there are obvious costs, the ones that you can see on a spreadsheet. Starting with recruiting. According to SHRM, the current average cost to hire anyone is about $4,700. That includes your job posting, your screening, your time, interviews, background checks, everything. But when that hire doesn't work out, you're doing that all over again. So now you've just doubled your cost to $9,400 in recruiting costs alone. Then there's salary. So for a company running, let's say $10 million in top line revenue, let's say that you hired somebody at $100,000 a year. Over 3 months, you've paid them $25,000. What about your training costs? Well, SHRM data has shown that the average cost to train an employee is around $1,300 per employee, but for specialized roles, it's actually much, much higher. Typically around $5,000 to $15,000 in training costs when you factor in your team's time. And don't forget about severance and exit cost. That's another $10,000 to $20,000 if you want to part ways cleanly. Add it all up, your hard costs alone are $50,000 to $70,000. Oh, and we're just getting started because the hard costs are painful, but the soft costs, this is where it really hurts. So according to Gallup's research, disengaged employees are 18% less productive than engaged ones. But a bad hire isn't just unproductive. They're actively costing you output. SHRM has also found that managers spend 17% of their time, which is almost 1 full day per week, managing poorly performing employees. So for a company running $10 million in revenue, If you have a 5-person team covering for someone who just can't do the job, and each person is spending 10 to 15 hours a week picking up the slack, that's $30,000 to $50,000 in lost productivity over 3 months' time. Then there's the hit on the team morale, which research has shown that 95% of CFOs say that a bad hire negatively impacts teams' morale. And when your top performers are burnt out from carrying extra weight, their productivity will drop 5 to 10%. So factor that across your team, that's another $20,000 to $40,000 in lost output. And here's the part that really stings. Gallup has found that burnt out employees are 2.5 times more likely to leave. So if one of your best people quits because of a bad hire, the cost to replace them is going to cost you $40,000 to $100,000. And don't forget about the opportunity cost. That's what the right hire would have produced within that time. And that's typically anywhere between $60,000 to $100,000. So your soft costs are roughly $150,000 to $290,000. So let's add it all up. Hard cost, $50,000 to $70,000. Soft cost, $150,000 to $290,000. The total damage for one bad hire is $200,000 to $360,000. For a company doing $10 million a year in revenue, that's nearly 3% of your annual revenue. That's right, gone from one bad hiring mistake. And here's what makes this even worse. According to CareerBuilder, 74% of employers admit that they have made a bad hire. That's 3 out of 4 hiring managers, which means if you're hiring multiple people a year, you're likely making this mistake more than once. The US Department of Labor estimates that a bad hire costs at least 30% of the employee's first year earnings. But as you can see from the math, the real cost is often 2 or 3 times the salary when you account for everything else that we just discussed. Now, most companies are making these mistakes repeatedly simply because they just don't have a system. They're hiring based on gut feel, urgency, or whatever process they string together. And unfortunately, Gallup's research shows that disengaged employees are costing the US economy $450 to $550 billion annually. Now, globally, that number is in the trillions, toppling over $8.5 trillion. So this isn't just your problem. This is a global epidemic. But unlike most companies, you don't have to keep making the same expensive mistakes. Now, you're sitting there thinking, this is exactly what happened to me. Trust me, I get it, I do. These numbers are terrifying. And most business leaders just have no idea that the real damage is happening until it's too late. You just simply think you made a bad hiring mistake, or you made a bad hire, or you made a bad call, but you don't realize that you just lost $250,000. And what's so frustrating, it's not that you're bad at hiring, it's that you're brilliant at running your business. You know your product, you know your market, you know your customers, but recruiting, that's just a completely different skill set altogether. And somehow you're just expected to figure it out. I mean, think about it. When you needed better accounting in your business, what did you do? You hired an accountant or you learned an accounting system. When you needed to understand marketing, you studied proven frameworks. But when it comes to hiring, you're okay with just winging it. That's not gonna work. And every time it doesn't work, you're not losing money, you're losing momentum, you're losing time, and you're losing confidence. So then you start to second guess yourself. And then you delay making critical hires because you're afraid of making another expensive mistake. But here's what I want you to understand. This doesn't have to keep happening. There is a way to hire that doesn't involve guesswork, it doesn't involve trial and error or luck. A way that works consistently regardless of how busy you are or how desperate you feel. It's not complicated and it's not expensive to implement, but it does require following a very specific process every time for every hire. And when you do, those $200,000 to $300,000 mistakes, they'll just disappear. So let me show you what it looks like. So over the past decade, I've built a hiring system that has led to more than 10,000 successful hires. I use this exact method in my agency every single day, and it's built on 5 critical steps that most companies either skip entirely or just do way too inconsistently. When you follow all 5 steps in order, your mishire rate drops dramatically, your time to hire shrinks, and your retention will skyrocket. So here's what the system looks like. Step 1, identify the X factor. This is a unique combination of traits, skills, and mindset specific to your company. This is the actual DNA of a top performer. Step number 2, this is verify the skills. Don't take their word for it. Don't trust the resume. You want to test it and then validate it. See them do the work before you make the offer. Step 3, get aligned on values. Skills get someone in the door, values will keep them there. If they don't align with how your company operates and what you stand for, they'll leave. Or worse, they'll stay and they'll just drag everyone down with them. Step 4, understand the personality. Are they wired to thrive in your environment? Do they match the role's demands? You see, personality fit will predict performance in ways that most interviews will never uncover. And step 5, confirm their long-term growth. Where are they going? Does this role get them there? If their trajectory doesn't align with what you're offering, well, they'll leave the moment a better offer comes along. So when you do all 5 steps, not 3, not 4, all 5, you're not guessing anymore. You're making data-informed decisions with dramatically lower risk. And here's why this system works. Remember that story at the beginning? The gut feel hire that cost over $300,000? That happened because critical steps were skipped. They didn't identify the X factor, so they hired for generic qualities. Or they didn't verify skills, so they trusted the resume and the interview process. And they didn't confirm the long-term growth. So in 3 months, the person realized that this wasn't where they wanted to be. Every single one of those costly mistakes that we talked about, they happen when you skip steps. And the companies that I work with that implement this process, they typically see a time to hire that's cut in half, mainly because you're not restarting the hiring process every 3 months, retention rates that double because you're hiring people who actually fit, and most importantly, you stop losing $200,000 to $300,000 every time you make a hiring decision. But here's the thing, you can't implement what you can't measure. So before you can fix your hiring process, you need to know what's actually breaking down. So I've created something called the Hiring Success Scorecard. It's a completely free assessment that evaluates your current hiring process across all 5 steps of my method. You'll answer a series of questions about how you currently hire, and you'll get back a detailed report that shows you where you're strong, where you're vulnerable, and what's actually costing you the most amount of money right now. It only takes about 2 or 3 minutes to complete, and you'll get your personalized scorecard immediately after. Now, I put the link in the description below, so if you've lost money on a bad hire, or if you're worried your next hire might be a costly mistake, this scorecard will show you exactly where to tighten up your process. So click the link, follow the instructions, and take the assessment. Now, if every bad hire is costing you $200,000 to $300,000 or more, you just simply can't afford to keep guessing. You need to fix your process, and you need to stop the bleeding today. Up next, watch this video where I break down how to conduct the perfect interview. Now, if you found this valuable, I invite you to hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.